as soon as you say the power is out there, or someone is stopping me, something outside of me is preventing me from fulfilling my dreams, you are giving away your power. You're projecting it. You're saying they have the power. I can't do what my purpose requires me to do because of that obstacle. But it's a misunderstanding because your mind is the one that's creating that scenario.
Yeah.
And as soon as you reclaim it, like you say, you lose your fear of it, and you understand that, oh, this is arising from my mind, and if it's my mind, I can change it. That's empowerment.
Hello, welcome to Soul Sessions. This is Debra Maldonado. I'm here with Dr. Rob Maldonado.
Great to be here.
And we are so excited to introduce our next season, season 8. It's so amazing that we're on season 8 already.
I know.
We have a really great topic for the next part of our series, the beginning part of the year. And it's about entrepreneurship, leadership, and spiritual growth for an enlightened entrepreneur. And so before we begin and dive into this first episode of the series, I do want to remind you to click the button here if you're watching us on YouTube to subscribe to our channel. And if you're listening to us on Spotify, iTunes, or any of those podcast services, do not forget to subscribe so you get every episode of this series and the future series for this year of season 8. So Rob, let's start out with why are we doing this? Why are we doing this series?
Yeah, one of my favorite topics, and one that is often misunderstood, not really discussed in polite circles, and one that is really near and dear to our hearts because it's our personal journey.
Yeah.
And we're going to be talking about what does it mean for us to be entrepreneurs, and how do we incorporate our spirituality into it?
And, over the past 20 years, I've been an entrepreneur. You and I have been working together, starting this company 10 years ago. And we've trained like hundreds and hundreds of coaches in our training, and they become entrepreneurs. So it's, we started off teaching about love and relationships. And as we started applying these principles and teaching them, we realized that a lot of our clients were professionals, and they were applying the same principles in business. And we were applying it, of course, on ourselves, the creative mind method, which we developed based on Jungian theory, Eastern philosophy, and neuroscience. And it's a unique approach to Jungian psychology and Eastern philosophy in a coaching model. And so we use the work that we teach every single day in our business. And we thought, well, why don't we share some of our learnings, what we've experienced in being around other entrepreneurs and what we witnessed, what can go wrong if you don't do your own inner work, and what can go right if you do.
Yeah, and this is especially relevant for coaches because as a coach, you have to think about business. You have to think about yourself as an entrepreneur, even if it's a solopreneur, right?
Yeah.
You're going at it yourself, or you're a therapist and you've been a therapist or someone in the helping profession. That's a big part of it. And often, I come from that culture of clinical psych. Often money, success, business is not spoken about. It's a dirty word. It's not banned.
I went, just so you know, when we first moved to New York, and you were getting your postdoc, and I went to this Westchester County. They had a kind of a group for professionals that do helping professions, right?
Right.
And I sat next to this one man, and he was like giving me the rules, and I said, "How come no one's talking about rates or what they're charging?" He's like, "Oh, no, we can't mention money." I'm like, "This is a business networking.
Yeah.
Why isn't anyone talking about money?" And it's so profoundly, throughout all the culture of, if you're doing good work and you're helping others, or as it's called in a lot of coaching circles, soft services, when you're really helping someone transform, that it's a soft service, that you shouldn't do it for the money, or you shouldn't. And of course we don't condone just doing things for the money, but you don't want to leave it out either. And have abundance and all those things that...
Yeah, it's a difficult topic because of all those reasons. And then because it hasn't been discussed enough, right? That conversation is not had. Then there's a lot of misconceptions as to what are we talking about when we talk about entrepreneurship, success, business building, all of these things. And so we wanted to clear the room in a sense and clear the air.
Cleanse the palate, and let's start from fresh.
Clear the air, and let's really discuss what do we mean by success especially in coaching. What does it mean to be a successful entrepreneur? And is it the opposite of being a spiritual person?
Yeah,
like a lot of people believe, right? That business is the counterpoint to spirituality. That's not really the way we see it.
And there's this idea that personal growth precedes business growth. And then we're also going to start talking and opening the conversation. Those of you who are new to our work, is that our approach to personal growth is a lot different than what's out there in the mainstream. So we're going to kind of expand and stretch what you think is really personal growth and really have you go to the next level. And, the great minds that influence our work, Carl Jung and Individuation.
Yeah, absolutely. So in Individuation, we learn about the persona and the ego and understand that that's not who we are. And often that's one of the key misperceptions or misconceptions about success, is that people are talking about success from their ego persona experience. In other words, they're defining success as the success of the persona. And that to us is not success, because you're not the persona. It's a role that you're playing. So if you're adding a success layer to that persona, it's simply a part of the role that you're playing, and it will not hit that deeper level of the soul.
Like to be soul aligned, people talk about, right?
That's right. Your business will not be soul aligned. It will be ego aligned,
ego driven. Yeah. And so let's just for those of you who are new to us or new to these concepts, think about the ego as the first part of life. We are building up this ego, which is a normal part of development. We look at how to survive in the world, how to socially survive, and that is really a big part of our becoming a human being. And so none of the things that happen to us early in life, the conditioning, the defenses that the survival strategies that we created, are all part of a healthy mind. Some of us had tougher times than others, but it doesn't mean that because you had a tougher time and maybe you have more defenses that there's something wrong with you. It actually means your mind is working the way it should. It's developed to help you survive. And then what Jung came with this idea that we're meant more than just survive in this world, that there's this soul purpose, this meaning, this transcendence desire for human beings. And you've all heard these terms before, but Jung doesn't get the credit he should get, because he really developed that whole soul connected personal growth. And so when we think about building our ego, we kind of create these defenses of, for example, you grew up in a very poor family and you decide, I'm going to be a successful entrepreneur because my family was poor and I never want to struggle again. Many people, and you became really successful, many people would think, oh, they really transformed. But what they did do is transform their outer world, but they're still operating from ego because they're still rejecting that past and creating a business based on, I don't want to be this, like almost like they're using the past to catapult them to the future. And I think a lot of people, that's how they build businesses. But the problem is it's not soul aligned.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's back up a little bit. Everyone has heard Maslow's hierarchy of needs pyramid. And it's very simple if you don't know about it. He scales these needs in this way. He says first you have biological needs that must be fulfilled before you can move on to the next layer of it, or the next level. After the biological needs are met, then you have social needs, that self-esteem, that acceptance, that connecting to others, that feed your sense of self in relationship to others, that society. But he says after that you have these self-actualization needs, which really start to hit upon this level where you need meaningful work, you need meaning in your life beyond kind of just your social status. It's not just you
like just even acquiring money for survival, having that money in the bank.
Yes, beyond you being perceived as a successful person, it means that you're really passionate about what you're doing. You feel that you're doing meaningful work, meaning your purpose, right? What people call your higher purpose. Now, a lot of people don't know this about Maslow, that towards the end of his life, he started thinking about transcendent needs, beyond that, even beyond kind of achieving your or being self-actualized, that there are these transcendent needs that take you even beyond your personality, beyond who you are as an individual, into connection with something bigger than yourself.
And that is kind of hard concept for people because they think their personality and their soul are like one and the same. They think my soul is like having this personality, and then it's kind of carries on, and this personality is who I am. And what we're saying, and what Jung says, and what Maslow's saying, is that we have to transcend and become someone else. We have to become our true self, because the personality that we have was shaped by the world, and the world of egos. The society culture is ego driven. It's all about survival and social needs and like ego needs, which is okay. We need to survive. But if we define ourselves just by that, we are still an ego, and it'll never be enough. It'll never be enough. And we see people get burnt out, overworked. I think, a lot of people were in the corporate world quit the corporate world during COVID because they were like, why am I commuting 2 hours a day each way and like working all these crazy hours to have this big house? And we started to like reevaluate what was meaningful. What do we need? And there was a huge surge in people, especially in our business, people seeking spiritual knowledge. They were like, what is life about and what is meaning? So we're on this cusp now of this movement of people now going, I don't want to do business the same way anymore. I don't want to do relationships the same way anymore. I want it needs to be done in a different way.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you a little bit about your personal journey, but before we do that, let me finish up on this kind of idea of what are the foundational roots of these ideas that we're talking about. So we have Maslow's ideas of these hierarchy of needs that take us into kind of the idea that after we've done our homework, we've accomplished the basic tasks that society and culture places upon us, that there are these higher needs of actualization and transcendence that need to be met as well. Mm-hmm. In other words, they're not. It's
another need.
Actually. They're not luxuries.
Yeah.
What he's saying. They're not just something nice to have.
Like, I'm retired now. I think I'm going to find my purpose.
They're actual needs, meaning psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, we need these things to really fulfill the mission of our life. Mm-hmm. Now, that's an important clue that he was looking at Jung, of course. Mm-hmm. Jung's idea of individuation is this process of becoming your true self, which is, if you read it carefully and you really look at the body of his work, he's talking about reaching the self, which in Eastern philosophy is understood as pure awareness, this deeper soul in us that is the foundation of our life. Now, in Eastern philosophy, Artha is the world of success, the world of business.
Wealth and success.
Yes. Yeah. And it's also considered one of the primary human activities that needs to be fulfilled in your life.
And the other are love and relationships, pleasure, kama, and then also dharma, which is living your purpose, having money, artha, and then the moksha, which is transcendence. So all four. And you can't have transcendence. It's really hard to have that if you're not also successful. And you could be a monk and be successful. I mean, look at some of the monks out there. They're embracing success so that they can reach more people. So it's not that they're not being known. They're using their platform to further their life. So they're not rejecting money. It's interesting too, when we talk about spirituality and money, Mother Teresa, everyone thinks, oh, this poor lady, she's like helping the poor. No, she went out and asked for donations from very wealthy people. Millions and millions of dollars went through her hands to help with her causes and those orphanages she had in India. And she knows that it took money. So it wasn't that she was like gave up money. She knew that money was of value. And so she used Artha in a way to completely, help the world. So if we think that we don't need money, even Mother Teresa knew you need money. And it's just the way we operate, the way we transfer energy and products and services in the world. And it's just, if you reject it, then you're kind of out of that cycle.
Yeah, and in the U.S., a lot of these ideas came through Swami Vivekananda, who in the early 1900s was already speaking about the mind and the power of the mind. And a lot of the gurus of that time in the U.S., the motivational speakers and the coaches at that time,
the new thought people,
learned from Vivekananda. And so there's this East-West connection that's been going on for a long time that kind of has influenced our work.
Even
deeply.
Yogananda talked about wealth and success.
Absolutely.
He had some books on that.
Yeah.
And so we want to just clear the air that it's okay to be successful and spiritual. And but you can't, Ram Dass had a great quote that I love. He said, you can have money, you just can't let money have you. And that is the key. It's like you can use it to further your purpose, but you can't make it about you. And that when you do make it about you, when you make it about your own self-identity and you frame yourself as your company's success is my identity, that's where you're off the rails. That's where it gets tricky, and you're kind of setting yourself up for unhappiness, and it's not going to be fulfilling for you. It'll never be enough.
Yeah, so tell us about your 20-year journey of entrepreneurship.
Okay, well, let's start off. Well, I started out, actually, I had a comfortable salary. I wasn't making tons of money, but I had a comfortable salary, I had a brand new car, I had a condo in Denver, it overlooked the mountains. I mean, it was beautiful. I had a good life, but I was feeling so empty and looking at like different ways to do something different with my life. I love personal growth. And so I found hypnotherapy, and I'm like, one day I'm going to go to hypnotherapy school. And when I got laid off, I was like, okay, this is my chance. And I remember the thought I had was, I just want to see what I'm made of. And I have to do this. And I wasn't thinking, I'm going to create a multi-million-dollar company. I was thinking, I'm going to live, I could, cut back my lifestyle because I want to do what I love. Like that was my priority. I wanted to do what I love. It wasn't about, I need to have that fancy car again. And ultimately, within a year, I was making the same money I made in corporate, but I was doing what I loved. And that's when I met you, and you were just like, you're so happy. And I think
let me back up there. So what did your parents say when you told them about doing this kind of work or going off on your own, right? Quitting the corporate position. And what did your friends say?
They all thought I was crazy. And when I got back I moved to Santa Fe for 2 months for the training. I was very intense. Like it was like an intensive everyday training. And I remember I got back and I was saying, I was so passionate about what I was doing. I'm going to be successful. And I remember one of my friends he kind of like, yeah, Deb, you do that. And everyone told me, you know how hard it is to get started, and, what are you going to do? And my parents were worried about me. And it was just crazy, like how everyone around me was telling me it can't be done, except when I was in school, I was surrounded by people who were believing that. But you know what the first thing I did? Hired a coach. I hired a coach because I knew I couldn't do it on my own. And as soon as I hired a coach, I had a plan. I had someone to work with me on all the stuff that was coming up when I was scared, when clients were triggering me, when I wasn't keeping my boundaries with clients, challenging me. And I think that really was the key, is having not trying to do it on my own and figure it out. It was the fastest path for me. And so that was also one of the things. Do you have another question?
Well, no, I just want to kind of stay here for a little bit, because what we see here is something a lot of entrepreneurs, or maybe it's a universal, right? Everyone that is an entrepreneur has to go through this, that they're going to get resistance from their friends, their family, society in general, because from their perspective is like, you have a good job. Why would you take a risk like that of going off on your own when there's a sure path for you? And that's essentially what Jung is talking about as our persona. Our persona is the one that fits into society like a puzzle piece. You have a place, and it's given to you as, this is what you're going to do, and this is how you're going to do it. Now, for the individual, of course, it gives them a way to proceed, a way to work, and an identity. So to step outside of that, he says, what the individual is doing there is leaving the herd.
And you know what I loved about that too? I'm so glad you brought that up, because I started going to networking events, and I was like, oh, this is very different than the corporate people in my corporate friends were, they were all these people that were starting businesses. They were excited about their dreams, and it was so exciting to be one of them, like being in this new kind of crowd, basically leaving the old herd and elevating myself to be around people who were taking risks, who were doing what I was doing, like I said, and hiring a coach. And that, I think I was so determined, and I don't know if everyone has this, but some people do, and some people have it and then lose it. It's like I was so determined that this was going to make this work. I didn't let anything stop me. Yeah. And I was going to invest in it, and I was going to do it. And I remember I hired a bookkeeper when I first started to help me with my little accounting and all these things. And I told her, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And she, like 2 years or 3 years later, she goes, Deb, remember when I first met you and you said you were going to do all these things? And look at you now. And it's just like, you have to have that like vision, that unshakable faith, and knowing that you're going to do this. Like, it can't be like, maybe I'll try it and see what happens. It has to be that full on.
The other piece, of course, and this hits upon the heroic journey, right? The hero's journey.
Yeah.
That you found a mentor or a guide, which is the coach in this instance, someone who is going to validate your vision, your quest. And that is an important piece, because if you don't have that, that's when people feel alone. Then they feel isolated.
Well, their ego kind of starts telling them,
again, because
pulling you back.
Your family is resisting it. Your friends are resisting it. Society is resisting it. Therefore, you're alone in essence. You need to have somebody that validates your vision and says, no, you can do this. And this is an important piece of your life. And often that comes through a coach in modern society, right? Yeah. That the coach is able to guide you and say, you can do it. Go for it.
It's not a weekend workshop where you do it once and you're done and your whole life changes. A coach is a consistent, customized personal growth system. If you have the right coach, that can help you in a long term. In that, and it's not like one session, everything changes. It's that commitment to yourself, commitment to keep moving. And the coach is there like walking next to you. They're not an authority figure psychoanalyzing you. They're saying you can do this. But also, in our Jungian coaching, we do work with the unconscious. So it's a little deeper, but it definitely, just having a coach made such a huge difference in my life.
Yeah, in Star Wars, Luke has Yoda, right? He's the coach, essentially, or the wise guide that instructs someone, how do you proceed and how do you get through this challenge. So then you go ahead and leave the corporate world and you start on this great adventure of becoming an entrepreneur. What were some of the big challenges for you?
There's a lot. I mean, I had to get over the challenge of just receiving money for the service I gave, because a service is invisible. It's selling the invisible. And so how do you explain to someone that you're going to get, this result? And then I was also hesitant that what if they didn't get the results? So there was a lot of inner conflicts I had to work through. Another thing too is this idea of the shadow work. And I remember when I first met you, I knew kind of Jung, but I didn't really know what it was. I mean, I read Debbie Ford's book and, about the shadow, and it just didn't really connect like on a deep way with me until I met you. And I remember I came home and I had that issue with a client who was mad at me, and I was all upset, and you were telling me about the shadow. And I don't want to go into the story because many of you have heard it before, but it was transformational, because I think one of the things that I see a lot when I'm in groups hearing entrepreneurs, they're always talking about these other people, and they're out there and they're bad people, and they're these toxic people or whatever, and or the economies out there, and they don't really see that your mind is actually reflective. It's not out there and then there's in here. It's one. And for me, that was a turning point when you showed me that diagram of how we project our own fears onto our people around us. And I think that is really important. A part of Jung's work is about understanding when we're projecting, understanding our ego so that we can transcend it. If we don't, we're caught up. We're caught up in the ego and we can't transcend it.
Yeah, this is another important piece that illustrates the archetypal nature of entrepreneurship, that you only get this clarification when you venture out beyond the the realm of the known.
The comfort zone.
Yes,
Yeah.
that you're pushing the boundaries, you're stepping outside your comfort zone, and then things begin to emerge that fit what you need to learn and know on the way to becoming successful.
And you know what's interesting is that is what most people will shy back from. They'll say, see, this doesn't work, or I can't do this. They don't embrace the challenges as part of the process. Yeah. And they think, I'm just going to put myself out there and the money's going to flow in and everything's going to be easy. The challenges are what sharpens us, like diamonds, that rough, taking the rough off the diamond and shines it up inside of us. And we need those challenges because if things become easy, and we have that one-hit wonder where all of a sudden something went viral and we became, well known overnight, and we haven't done our work. It's going to come after you. It's not going to be an easy task because you're still going to have to do that inner work.
Yes, what you're saying is essentially that you can do the journey from the persona level, mm-hmm. but it's not going to give you the inner transformation mm-hmm. that doing it as an internal exercise does.
Well, if you think about balance, if you build something a lot out there in the external world, as far as you build, say you like triple your income or quadruple your income or 10 times your income, but you don't 10 times your growth, it's out of balance. And the inner work has to match the outer growth. And if it doesn't, you're really building from ego. And what I see when people build businesses from ego is two things happen. One is they just stay stuck. They're kind of like using their success as a way to define them. Like when I'm successful, then I'll be okay. They look at their bank account, they look at their accolades, the praise from their clients, and they think, well, that defines me. And when that defines you, you're still like repeating. You're kind of one step forward, two steps back, and you're kind of like still in that conditioning. You're going to make the same amount of money as you always did. You're going to have the same type of problems and relationships you've always did because you haven't grown. You're just kind of in ego, maybe ignoring more, maybe brushing things aside, but it's still falling into the same traps. And then the other one is when you over-identify with the ego.
That's right. So I wanted to ask you about the four persona archetypes mm-hmm. or persona types that most people fall into, and that's an important clue for entrepreneurs is to figure out what kind of challenges they're going to face as they go through that journey of becoming an entrepreneur. So the mother, the mystic, the warrior, and the lover.
And this is based on Toni Wolff's personality types, women. She said women fell into these categories, but we'll make it masculine and feminine for the men out there. That there was the type of the mother, like these roles that women culturally fit into. Like you either get married and you're the mother and the parent, or the father, or the lover, where you're the other woman, and you're not committed to anything, or you are the professional, where you are a business person, or you're the mystic, you're like kind of the woman that's out in the forest and doing the curandero,
running with wolves,
or like that kind of like mystical person who's not in society. And so she said women have fallen into those categories, but I think all of us do. And when we think about them, the mother or father archetype is the parent, is someone who's responsible. And they do everything to make sure everyone's happy, and their own interests aren't as important as everyone else in the group. So it's great quality, right? And then the lover is someone who's like, I don't want any structure. They don't have to be the other woman or the other man, but it's like more like this carefree artist type of person, creative person who doesn't like structure, doesn't like, the traditional like structures of even society. They're kind of like wanting to rebel a little bit.
Well, I see all of these in you. So which one were you identified with as persona?
Well, I guess when we think about these, they evolve, right? So the mother is kind of like part of my personality, that I was always the pleaser, always good. And the mystic, I was always very like spiritual, and I was always kind of one of those people that love to take a challenge. And then the lover, I was just, I didn't like committing too much in relationships, which is why I stayed single for so long. So I saw myself in all these different places, and we find that some people in love, like in relationships, they can be a type, and then other people in business, they can be a certain type.
Oh, interesting.
But we also, as we grow...
Which one was yours again?
I think I was the mother primarily. And then even when I first started taking clients, I was always nurturing them. And sometimes I would like say, I really want to be direct with this person because I could see what's stopping them, but I don't want to hurt their feelings. And so I ended up being more pleasing and nurturing than actually helping them be more direct. And I found when I started being more direct and risking, putting my ego at risk out there for them not liking me, they actually got better results.
Yeah. And so what are the challenges for the mother? Is it to embrace her professional or?
Well, I think, if you think about the opposite of the mother would be the professional. So the mother's all heart and she wants to she's loving and nurturing and emotional. And a lot of people that are empaths fall into that category. And then the warrior, the professional, shuts off the emotion. Think about a warrior going to war. They're not scared thinking I'm going to die. They're shutting that down and moving toward doing their duty. Are they going to
my shield and my sword?
Yeah. But it's all about conquering in action, very active and moving, not embracing the emotion. So I see those two as opposites. And then the lover is someone who loves material things. They love sense pleasures. They love the body, sexuality. They love the arts and, this kind of everything physical, in the world, the material world. And they just love it so much, all the pleasures of life. And then the mystic wants the opposite. They want to deny the sexuality. They want to deny the money. They want to deny the earthly things. And they want to go to escape to spirituality and not have anything of the world, and so they reject those things.
But it's more than embracing the opposites, right? Because that would simply still be at the persona level. Ego level. So
the goal is really to see. I always say this, and I say this in my book, like a spark from fire, is that you start with which one are you predominantly right now? What's your go-to? Are you a nurturer? Are you one who shuts off emotions? Are you the non-committal person? Are you the mystic that's always wanting to escape or want that magical cure, the quick fix or the magical manifestation type of person? And then say, well, what's the opposite of that? And that would be the shadow. What could be in the shadow of a person? So for me, the shadow would be a cold, uncaring person, someone who is not nurturing, someone who abandons people when they need help. And so for their mother's example, if you're in a service-based business, you will have this fear driving you of not being that person. You love that you're a mother, you love that you're a nurturer, and you identify with that. But the fear of letting someone down, and a client says, I really need you, but I don't have any money. And you're like, okay, or I really, I need you, but I'm not showing, they don't show up for their sessions, or there's something that you need to keep a boundary with, but you don't want to be that cold, uncaring person. And you just let them walk all over you. And that is where the problem is. And that's where I see I think that particular archetype, that persona, is a lot of people in service industry. They're all heart, they have everything in the right place, but they reject the businesswoman. And even in our trainings, we always see people, they love the coaching, but they don't like the business. And they kind of feel this kind of conflict within them of, you have to set boundaries, you have to set rules, you have to have contracts, it helps the client. You taught me this, is that if you don't keep boundaries with people, it hurts them, because then they learn they could just take, it's like they use that to kind of go through life. And if you point it out to them that this, and have more rigid, not too rigid, but more of a structure, they actually benefit.
Yeah. So what you're describing is the confrontation with the shadow.
Yes.
And it's not that the shadow is simply the opposite of the persona, but that it's that fear of being perceived or being a certain way.
Yeah, like a cold, uncaring, even a money grabber, right, someone who's just in it for themselves, right?
Yes. So for a motherly, nurturing type, of course, their fear would be that I might not be liked, I might not be perceived as someone who's caring and nurturing and compassionate.
Yeah.
And so it's not so much that they need to be that way, but in losing the fear of that, they're able to integrate or express those qualities in a measured way.
Yes.
Right?
Well, you want it to be a choice. You want to help people, but not feel compelled to, and then make that if they love you or appreciate you, that fills your ego. And it's making another person a container for your own unmet personal needs. And that's what happens a lot. And then some people do that with their business. They make their business a container for their unmet personal needs.
Yes.
And then it becomes this kind of identity that we're trying to build, compensate from, our conditioning.
Yeah, so that takes us back then to this idea of transcendence.
Yeah.
How did you experience that transcendence? I mean, once you started to find your purpose and experience success, not only financial freedom, but what was the feeling, or what was the state of mind that you would describe as that transcendent need, or fulfilling that transcendent need?
Well, I think what I learned is when we had that first shadow, I was the mother, and this person was upset with me, and it was like really triggering me because I don't want to be the cold and caring, terrible person. And when I sat with it, I realized all the patterns in business that were actually hurting me financially. Like, again, letting clients cancel at the last minute, not charging them for the session, letting them charging not enough for my services, and giving people like extreme discounts and bonuses. So, they like me. And then I looked at it from a business standpoint, and it really was hurting me. And I think, a lot of our service-based entrepreneurs, they hurt themselves financially because their ego is running their business they're using that pleasing and needing to nurture as almost like a way to build their ego and preserve it. And to break out of that is so scary. And so it's not that you have to be ruthless, but you want to make it a choice. And so for me, when I stepped into it, I was like, oh, and I would check in. I would say, is this me? Do I really want this? Like, I learned to start when I made decisions. Do I want to give this person a break? Or do I want to set a boundary? But you're making it from a conscious choice, not as an old pattern, and that you're just doing it and you're compelled to do it, versus now you're bringing it to consciousness. And what I noticed is that once I started doing that, I felt like I was in control of my life and the business. Before you and I started, like my little hypnotherapy practice, I was more in control of like everything. But before that, my clients had all the power. The people had all the power out there. The people in my networking group that I needed to impress, all had the power. And then it's like reclaiming your power to choose your life. And that is really satisfying. And then you really do feel this sense of connection to your soul's doing the work. Your soul is the one who wants to help and make people happy and do this great work. It's not your ego going, see, you got to be liked. You got to do this work to be liked. It's a much different approach. And I see a lot of people who have good intentions, but they're doing it to be liked, not doing it because their soul that's part of their soul's journey and the gifts that they have in the world.
Yeah, I mean, what you're describing is that empowerment model that comes through individuation, because as soon as you say the power is out there, or someone is stopping me, something outside of me is preventing me from fulfilling my dreams, you are giving away your power. You're projecting it. You're saying they have the power. I can't do what my purpose requires me to do because of that obstacle. But it's a misunderstanding, because your mind is the one that's creating that scenario.
Yeah.
And as soon as you reclaim it, like you say, you lose your fear of it, and you understand that, oh, this is arising from my mind. And if it's my mind, I can change it. That's empowerment.
Well, it's a great example of that. Really simple, as I see a lot of people that I coach, they do their calls with discovery calls with their clients, and the clients are saying they're too expensive. They're too expensive. So what they do is they start cutting back their rates. It's like, yeah, it must be too expensive, versus saying, well, that's what your mind is thinking. Like, it's a reflective of your mind, not reality. So if you feel in your heart unconsciously, you might not even be conscious of it, that it's expensive, that's what you're going to get in feedback. People are going to go, yeah, it's expensive. And then you're going to pull back. And that is also part of a poor business decision, is to not charge what you need to charge to keep your business going, and so it's like we get personally involved in, and our ego gets involved in our decisions that are business decisions. And then it makes it all about us being liked and us doing the right thing, or what reality is. And so when clients tell me, my clients that are coaches, and they say, everyone's saying I'm too expensive. I'm like, well, you believe it. So what does that mean for you? And what's the feeling that you're overcharging? And what is that kind of person overcharges? That's where you're getting into the shadow work. And that's really the beauty of this work, is like, you're not just letting the economy tell you, your clients tell you how good you are, the world tell you how good you are. You start to basically, you decide who you really are. And that is the journey of individuation, as I would see it. That self-actualization. I'm not the person I've been conditioned to be. I'm the person I was meant to become.
Right, right. And that is a spiritual task in essence, because the essence of spirituality, all spiritual practices, is to find the cause of your life. Like, what is the purpose? What are you doing here? And this process that you're describing of becoming an entrepreneur is essentially a way of peeling back the layers, right? Of finding out what is the cause of my success? Where is the source of it? And you find that it's your own mind, it's your own consciousness, that it's not really out there in the circumstances. You use it as a journey towards the self. So,
and that's the reward. It's not, I mean, we are very successful. We have great clients. We have a great team. We have, basically a dream come true in our life, but it's not because of the money. It's because we love what we do every day and we are aligned with it. And success or failure, good things, bad things, we still love our work regardless of what the outcome is and what the bottom line looks like. We are always in love with what we're doing and like inside know what we're doing is connected to our soul and what aligns with us. Don't you think that? Like it feels, it's that if you're an entrepreneur, your business is going to go up and down, up and down, up and down. You need something to equalize. And the great equalizer is the self, your true self. That's the equalizer. Not, I feel good when there's money in the bank. I feel good when I made that sale. I had a great launch, or this success can't happen, or that great thing happened. That opportunity came in. You'll be up and down your whole life, and it's so stressful. You need that equalizer. You need that part of yourself that's unchanging. And that's what they talk about in the Upanishads, is the unchanging self that's not buoyed by success or failure. And that is true success, when you can get there and you feel that empowerment.
Wow. So, yeah, that is what we wanted to do to set the tone of this series, that we're going to be talking more about what does it mean to be an entrepreneur and what does it mean to be successful in a true sense, beyond financial freedom. What's going on psychologically? In other words, what is the psychology of a successful entrepreneur?
And then also, how do we grow spiritually? How do we enhance our own spiritual work and how to use that in business? Instead of, it's like an escape from business, it's how do we integrate it into every part of our life? It's like a cellular, every part of our cell is like the business is infused with soul.
That's right. And it's relevant to everyone because we all have to deal with finances, whether we like it or not, whether it's part of our persona or not. It's something we have to deal with. And so hopefully these conversations will help everyone understand how to use these tools of money and success in a way that liberates your mind instead of feeling that it's a necessary evil that you have to do. You can use it for your personal growth.
Yes. Well, we have a lot more to go with this series. We hope you join us next week for another episode. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're watching us on YouTube right here in the corner, or if you are listening to us on Spotify, iTunes, and all those wonderful podcast services. We'd love for you to subscribe, because this series is going to be chock full of amazing tips and tools for you to transcend your ego and be successful. And if you're not in your own business yet, but you have a purpose, listen, because this is going to kind of awaken some dreams in you, maybe to start your own passion project that will help you be more aligned with your soul as well. So take care. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next week.